Well, I tell you what, while we wait for some other folks to join us, I'd like to welcome you to Gettysburg and welcome you out here to Pitzer Woods for our Living History Weekend with the men and women of the 21st Georgia. The men in front of you and the civilian contingent in camp of the 21st Georgia are a very valuable part of our Living History program this year. On 15 weekends, we've invited some of the finest groups from around the country onto the battlefield to present Life of the Civil War Soldier programs to you folks. Now, the key word in all this is invite. Gettysburg, we don't have the staff or the money to do these programs by ourselves, so we rely on volunteers, just like the men and women of the 21st Georgia. These folks have traveled long distance, they've spent their own money, and in this economy, considerable amounts of money, and given up this weekend to come to Gettysburg here to Pitzer Woods to present these programs on the infantry soldier to you folks. And without the dedication of folks just like this of the 21st Georgia, we could not offer any of the weekends available for you folks to enjoy. So maybe we can just take a moment, show our appreciation to the 21st Georgia for giving up their weekend for us.
Thank you.
Now what they're going to do out here is the weapons and introduce you to the weapons and tactics of the infantry soldier. You're going to see how the men formed up in those double rank lines, fought the tactics of the American Civil War, and introduce you to the weaponry, their Springfield or Enfield rifle musket. Now they will be firing their muskets for you, part of the demonstration here, but we do not live fire the muskets. So for obvious reasons, no mini balls are going to be flying down range, but they are going to blank fire about 60-70 grains of black powder in a blank cartridge. It's going to be a little loud. So when you go to fire, if you have a hearing aid, turn it down. Also, if you want to protect your hearing, simply cup cover, plug up your ears. That should do the trick. You can go home with all your hearing. Also, when we fire weapons on battlefields of the American Civil War in the Park Service, we give a distance for safety between you folks and the men firing their weapons, and we keep that safety distance here at Gettysburg by the means of this very expensive barricade. So move right up into the barricade, but you can just respect to do not go beyond it. Also the perimeters, we give you a wide range to get photographs, but just do not go beyond it out in the open field. When they fire their muskets, they will be firing off in this direction or in this direction, and you won't be in the line of fire. After the program is finished out here, the 21st Georgia's got a lot of nice programs they're going to do for you. Not only you can go back and ask all the infantry about their weapons and tactics and anything about the infantry soldier, but their civilian contingent's going to do a lot of programs on civilian life during the American Civil War. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. Spend some time with them after the program back in camp like you were over there earlier. Well, thank you folks for supporting our Living History, and if everything goes well here at Gettysburg this year, look for the 21st Georgia on our calendar for next year. They've been coming in all this time, probably over 20 years I've been working with them, and every weekend I spend with them, they always make my stay with them very pleasurable and very low-key. So to introduce you to the role and function of the infantry when it comes to the tactics and weapons, I'd like to introduce you to a gentleman who's been doing this a lot of years. Very knowledgeable, going to share some of his knowledge with you. I'd like you all to meet Mr. Stuart McClung. Stuart?
Hi, Tom. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Gettysburg National Military Park. We're very happy to see you here today. We hope you learned something. That's our purpose in doing this program. To give you a little bit of background, the 21st Georgia was here at the battle. We were part of Robert Rhodes' division in Ewell's Corps and fought up on the north end of town, just above the college. You know where the Peace Light Memorial is, up in that area. So what we want to do is go ahead and show you how they loaded the weapons and handled the weapons and fired the weapons, and then we're going to also show you how they maneuvered into the various positions necessary to confront the enemy. So when they marched on the field, they were in a column of fours, a marching column. That's how you get from point A to point B most efficiently, for instance, going down a road. But what happens when you get into battle, confronting the enemy, you need to get into what's known as a battlefront. It's two ranks, a front and a rear rank. So you can confront the enemy. So there are, depending on your facing, six ways, total ways of getting into a battle front. 3 from left face, 3 from the right face. So in the meantime, we're going to go do the loading in 9 times. Okay. There is a process by which the weapon is loaded. And this is the way the recruits were initially taught. By the time they got into battle, they didn't actually do it this way. But by the time you become a veteran, it's all sort of natural anyhow. But we have what we call loading in 9 times, and we're going to demonstrate that for you. Private Wood, if you would, front and center. Captain.
So when the soldiers would show up for camp instruction, they learned this process called loading in 9 times, loading in 10 times, depending on which manual they were doing. And Private Wood's going to do loading in 9 times. So the first command would be load in 9 times, load. Handle cartridge. Now he's taking that cartridge that's full of black powder, which have a ball at the bottom of it. A Minet ball, 58 caliber. He's going to prepare to tear that cartridge. Tear the cartridge. He exposes the black powder, and the command would be the charge cartridge. So now that exposed powder is going to the bottom of the barrel, and that mini ball is going to be on top, right? And so as he charges his cartridge, making sure it's all in there, the next command would be to draw rammer. He takes that rammer out, and now he's going to ram the charge and the ball and the paper and the wadding all down in there to get ready to fire. Ram cartridge. Now it's very important that you return your rammer. You want to be able to fire again. Return rammer. Cast about. Now he's bringing it to a position where there's no nipple to nipple. He's going to place a percussion cap on there, which is a mixture of chemicals that are going to be able to cause that powder, when the hammer strikes the cap, it's going to be able to cause the powder to go off and send the ball, the Minet ball, down range. Prime. Shoulder, arms. Now he's ready to fire. Outward, face, forward, march. Halt. Firing at the right oblique. Ready. Aim. Fire. Recover. Arm. Prime. Ready. Aim. Fire. Recover. Arms. Shoulder. Arms. Inward. Face. Forward. March. Halt. Halt. Thanks, Kevin. So you notice that did make some noise, so you can imagine what it's going to be like when we do a whole company firing at the same time. So in any event, when it comes to firing, there are various ways of doing it. You can fire all at the same time. You can fire right down the line by what we call a file, or you can do it by the front rank and then the rear rank. Alright, so we're going to get to that. Want to do evolutions now? Yeah, we will.
Alright. We're going to show you how they did some of the maneuvers on the field in order to get into position to fire. Captain?
Attention company. Shoulder, arms. Right, face. Forward, march.
So your notes are now in that marching column of fours. So depending on where the enemy shows up, you got to figure out how to get into position in order to face them. Right, left, or in front of you.
Line, march.
They just did what's called a by-company into line. So they were going that way and swung around because they could face the enemy coming this way.
By company into line, march.
And they're at the right face, so they're building off the left shoulder of the first sergeant.
Company, halt. 5 minutes and 5.
All right. My company?
Yeah, we're gonna do by
Okay.
company.
All right, so we're going to do the firing demonstration now, and if I understood correctly, he's going to do it by company, which means they will all fire at the same time. If you'll notice, the guy in the rear rank has got to be careful about where he places that weapon as he comes over the shoulder of the guy in the front rank. You don't want a cap going off in your ear or a muzzle flash. So they have to be properly positioned.
Firing by company. Company ready. Aim. Fire. Recover arms. Load.
See, needless to say, that puts the most lead down range. But in the meantime, you're kind of left vulnerable because you're having to reload. So if you want to change things up and keep the enemy away, you might do by the front rank, and then while they're reloading, do it by the rear rank, so you kind of keep up a constant fire. It's the same thing with going down the line by files, front rank and front file and rear file.
Shall fire by rank. Rear rank. Ready. Aim. Fire. Recover arms. Load. Front rank. Ready. Aim. Fire. Recover arms. Load. Load and come to the shoulder.
So I'd say it's much better at keeping the enemy at bay when you fire kind of a little by little.
What's the rate of fire between the ranks?
If
they're well trained?
yeah, okay. Well, as a matter of fact, if you get to the point where you're proficient at it, you can get off 3 aim shots in about a minute. Okay. But you have to skip some of those steps that the guy was demonstrating right here. It's kind of a quick, and then, so yeah, if you're good at it and you can, you know, ignore all the bullets that are flying at you, you get up about 3 shots a minute.
Company, we shall fire by file. Commence. Fire. Fire.
Go right down the line,
Yes.
do it.
Load and come to the shoulder. Fire. Load and come to the shoulder.
All right, now, what we're going to do this time is something that you don't really see very often. With thousands of guns going off at the same time, it's a lot of noise. And the guys can't always hear the orders from the officers. So what they would do is communicate the orders by the drum. So they're going to fire by the drum. And you'll notice that each cadence is a command.
Company, we shall fire by the drum. Commence. Fire. Company, cry.
Now what they're going to do is they're just going to put a cap on the what we call the nipple, so they make sure all the weapons have been discharged so that they're all clear, because that's one of our safety rules. You don't want to go back to camp with a loaded weapon.
Company, ready. Aim. Fire. Recover arms. Shoulder, arms. Right. Face. Company, forward. March. Side company into line. March. Forward march. Company, halt.
Back to the shoulder.
Back to the shoulder. Order, arm. Hooray, rest.
Thanks, Captain. So you can see that, you know, with all this maneuvering going on, the guys would be drilled repeatedly, continuously, so that this maneuvering all becomes automatic. So when the command is given, they know exactly what to do and where to go and, you know, what position to be in. Basically what you want is for everyone to end up, just as they are now, in front of or behind the person they were with originally in the marching column. So, does anyone have any questions? No.
How many people would they be commanding at a time? How big would it go?
Well, it depends. Originally, a regiment was about 1,000 men. By virtue of sickness and casualties and so on, and you know, just attrition, you might end up commanding only 300 because they weren't always able to replace the casualties and the missing guys, the guys who were in the hospital. Anyone else?
At what range could they aim effectively? Typical.
Well, if you're really good at it, you might hit what you're aiming at up to several hundred yards, maybe. But you got to really know what you're doing. In the meantime, it was, you know, generally about a few hundred yards. Sir.
Did he ever get to use the bayonet?
Well, there weren't that many bayonet uses. Some. Basically, the tactics were such that you couldn't get close enough that there would be that much hand-to-hand combat. But yeah, there were some bayonet wounds. They would use them in case there was a charge or an assault. Anyone else?
So would the opposing side try to take aim at those commanders, because then you create the chaos? And
Yes, as a matter of fact, that's a good question. Sometimes they would make a point of trying to take out the officers because then you know, eliminate the chain of command. And it drops down to the point where, you know, you don't have that one leader who's in charge giving the commands.
And did the other side know the drum commands, or did they try to change them and things so that they wouldn't know what was coming?
Both sides pretty much used the same tactics because they went with the same what we call manuals in terms of how to drill and, you know, perform and maneuver. So yeah, everybody kind of knew what everybody else was doing for the most part, at least when they were on the field against one another. Anyone else? Well, thank you very much for coming. If you would like to join us over in camp, well, we can answer some more questions. You can get a little close to the weapons and the equipment, and the ladies will be over there doing little scenarios for you. And love to talk to you some more. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Attention company. Shoulder, arm. Left, face. Forward, march. Firing by company. Company ready.